We have the Preakness here, of course.
Yes.
But I've never been.
Neither have I.
I went one time. That was
Yeah.
You mentioned that you always have something kind of in the hopper. Are you working on anything right now that you can talk about?
Absolutely. I'm about 2/3 of the way through my first manuscript draft of a story. It's set in the Puget Sound region, which is where I grew up, and it's in 1922 during Prohibition, and specifically in a part of the Northwest that was notorious for rum running, bootlegging, human trafficking, and basically piracy back then. The opening is inspired by a true story from up there in which a lighthouse keeper on a remote island near the U.S.-Canada maritime border spots a commercial fishing boat adrift out on the tide, gets some people together, and they go out there and tow it in, thinking that it must have broken loose from its anchorage or something, but maybe the people on board are incapacitated. Anyway, they tow the boat in and discover that the crew is gone, vanished without a trace, and the boat is full of bullet holes and there's blood everywhere. So that's what really happened, and then my story sort of takes it from there, but you're just going to have to wait for the rest.
Definitely. Well, keep us posted when that comes out, and we'll give it a highlight on the show.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Do you have a name for it?
That's a good question. I'm sort of bouncing back and forth between Boundary Pass, which is the name of the waterway between the U.S. and Canada, where the opening takes place, or I was thinking about calling it Friday Harbor, which is the name of a little town on San Juan Island, which sort of becomes the focal point of the story. But I'm worried that if people are trying to order the book on Amazon or something, they'll get a guidebook, The Town of Friday Harbor, instead of my mystery.
Oh, there is that.
Well, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I've actually been to Friday Harbor.
Oh, yeah?
So, yes, I have. It was beautiful. Well, Puget Sound is just gorgeous.
Yeah, I love it there. Yeah, maybe it would be to my advantage. I don't know. I love the word Friday, too, because it sort of reminds me of, I can't remember what that TV show was way back, but about the detectives. And it's sort of, the word Friday for me kind of, right, yeah. So it sort of brings that into mind, like, oh, detectives. And so we'll see. You have a vote?
What was the name of the vessel?
The real one was called Barrel G. Like B-E-R.
Yeah. Well, it's a work in progress.
Yeah. About that.
Well, DC, can you give our listeners your website so they can check out things about you and about any upcoming books?
Well, you know what? I always direct people to my Amazon author page because it has as much information as my website did, and my website got hacked. So now if you type in the address, it takes you to an apparel store in Australia. So I'm working on that. I'm kind of a one-man show here, but...
Yeah, I was wondering because I was looking the other day for your website. I'm like, he doesn't have a website. How
No, I know. I need to get on that. When it ran, I would occasionally check my stats on visits and stuff. It didn't seem to get nearly as much traffic as just the book-selling outlets. So I thought, well, if I'm prioritizing my efforts here, maybe I should just put that on the back burner for now.
Well, DC, it was great talking to you today. We thank you for joining us.
I'm grateful for you having me on. I really appreciate it.
We hope you stay well and stay healthy and safe.
You too.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. And let me know when you come to town, and we'll take you to those restaurants.
Absolutely.
And if you come to Baltimore,
Same deal.
Oh, yes.
all right.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Delight. I really enjoyed that interview. Also enjoyed Blood in the Bluegrass. What a great book.
Oh, I can't agree more. The premise of the book takes place around Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby. Even though we're from Baltimore, I don't think that we embody the Preakness as much as Louisville embodies the Kentucky Derby. I thought it was a really great backdrop for a mystery.
And I totally agree with you because I think the pageantry of the Derby is... We have the Preakness here, and I'm not saying that it's not a grand event, but I don't think it's nearly the event, and it's synonymous with Louisville, where I don't think people think of Baltimore and think of the Preakness.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more of a citywide event for Louisville, whereas for Baltimore, it's really not. It's a weekend event for us, more so than anything. Everything that goes on around Churchill Downs and the Kentucky Derby is just very, very focused on the horse racing world. Even the bourbon barons are so caught up in the Kentucky Derby. It's all intertwined in the politics, in the tourism, especially like DC was talking about the foodie culture in Louisville. I'm sure that's got a big presence in the Kentucky Derby.
That's what I would like to say to our listeners. Do not read this book hungry. That is my one warning to you, because your mouth will be watering. There is a lot of food. And the book's not very long, but man, is there a lot of food.
Well, it's obvious that DC is a foodie and enjoys all the myriad places to eat around Louisville. I, for one, would really like to visit just for that reason.
Absolutely. I think we have a road trip in our future. And really, Louisville isn't that far from us. It's a good day's drive.
I think I would rather fly.
Well, on to the mystery part of the book, because that in itself was also a great mystery. I really enjoyed how he interwove the horse racing world with the bourbon world and the haves and the have-nots. I just thought it was brilliant.
Oh, yes. And also it highlights the jockey world, because you think of these great horse races being synonymous with the rich and more haves in the world, whereas the jockeys themselves, the ones who are truly putting forth all the effort and training, they're part of the have-nots. They don't really get a big portion of the payout on these races.
Yeah, there's really a disconnect between the work that they put in compared to what they get paid.
I enjoyed detectives in this story. Of course, DC is a former federal agent, so he's got an insight into the law enforcement world. I tend to think that his portrayals of these detectives, Laurel Arno is a senior detective and she's training Trey Houston. And I feel like he brings an element of actuality to his portrayal of these detectives. I thought that was very compelling.
You know, one thing that kind of stuck out to me was that this is the first in a series, but I really felt like these characters were so well developed. Usually, sometimes you don't see that till a second or a third book, but he did such a good job of giving these characters personality, traits that you usually grow to know about characters. This book isn't very long, but he really packed that in.
Oh, I agree. His character development was very well done. Actually, I especially enjoyed the character of Seth Greenberg, who is like the district attorney or Commonwealth attorney. He was an interesting character, but he brought an element of comic relief because he's in his 50s and he lives with his mother. Obviously, he's Jewish, and they had just celebrated the Jewish holiday of Purim. Apparently, there's a traditional cookie that's made, and his mother made these cookies, and he keeps offering these cookies to Laurel and Trey whenever he meets with them. They always turn him down. At the end of the book, he's not so happy with Laurel and Trey. Laurel finally says, well, can I have one of those cookies? And he says, no, you cannot.
Yeah, that was great.
It's a good mystery. Obviously, there's some comic relief, and the backdrop of the Kentucky Derby is really inspired. It's just an all-around good book.
Now it's time for New and Noteworthy. First, we have The Cold Vanish, Seeking the Missing in North America's Wildlands, written by John Billman. It came out July 7th by Grand Central Publishing. For readers of John Krakauer and Douglas Preston, the critically acclaimed author and journalist John Billman's fascinating in-depth look at people who vanish in the wilderness without a trace.
My book is The Performance by Selena Grace. It is number 13 in her Kate Redmond series. It is put out by Acero Publications, and it comes out July 30th.
My new and noteworthy book comes from friend of the show, S.C. Perkins. Lineage Most Lethal comes out July 21st and it's put out by Minotaur Books. Lineage Most Lethal is the captivating second mystery in S.C. Perkins' Ancestry Detective Series, in which Texas genealogist Lucy Lancaster deals with murders in both the past and present.
Trivia! Last week's question. John Dickinson Carr wrote the Dr. Gideon Fell mystery series. His book, The Hollow Man, was named the best what type of mystery of all time in 1981. A. Whodunit. B. Unsolved mystery. C. Locked room mystery. Or D. Overall mystery. And the answer is C. It is a very famous locked room mystery. This week's question. Who is the author Stephen King has named as one of his greatest influencers? Was it A. James Patterson, B. Edgar Allan Poe, C. Richard Matheson, or D. Agatha Christie? Good luck.
Well, that brings us to the end of another great episode. We would once again like to thank D.C. Alexander for being a guest on the show. We hope you join us next week.
Remember,
Life would be boring without a little mystery. Bye.